Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Cashflow Positive. My name is Kenny Bedwell, and we're going to talk about the tortoise versus the hare and why we want the hare to actually win in this case. So now everything is an analogy in reference to short-term rentals, so keep that in mind, not to displace any childhood stories or tales or memories that you have of the actual story tortoise and hare. But in the actual story of the tortoise and hare, we know that the two race. The hare gets so far ahead before the finish line, he just takes a nap, falls asleep. He's so far ahead, and the tortoise just takes his time, is consistent, and then eventually crosses the finish line and beats the hare all the way through. But a lot of morals, a lot of takeaways from that. However, when it comes to short-term rentals, and what we're going to be talking about here is launching your property and why speed is key to see it all the way through the end. Okay. And we're going to be talking about, we don't necessarily want to be exactly the hare from the story and lose the race, but we want to finish the race and do it consistently. And so we're going to break down how to do that and my secrets and the lessons that I've personally learned from, setting up 6 different short-term rental properties and going through this exact same process, which honestly, I will never do again on my own. So that to kind of ruin where I'm going to take this, but lots of lessons learned, and I encourage every single person to at least experience setting up a short-term rental for the first time, because it is quite the experience. For those of you who've gone through it, can relate. I think that's a level of achievement in life when you set up your first short-term rental property. You get a special badge, like a merit badge, like you're a Boy Scout or something, Girl Scout. So anyway, all right. So let's talk about this like tortoise versus hare and why speed is really key. So a lot of people, let's start what I typically see. So a lot of people, when they buy a property, so they go under contract, they do the inspections, they go through everything, they maybe start doing some research on design. Obviously, the designers don't want you to sign anything or really do anything until you get that clear to close. Most people wait, they get the clear to close, and then they start doing the painful process of designing decor, ordering furniture, ordering all these things. Well, what ends up happening most of the time is a lot of people will, especially these bigger properties, is they get a little particular and also concerned about, is it rental ready? What does it got to be rental ready? Okay. Now, there's a lot of things that actually consists of, right? Like we've got to furnish, design, decorate, amenitize, all these different elements to get a property actually ready, but they come in without a plan. They basically launch the listing, or not even launch the listing. They come in and they're like, okay, well, I need to hire a designer, so let me hire a designer. The designers go, okay, this is what we're going to do. It takes a few weeks and back and forth. Okay, then we got to order all this stuff. And they're like, okay, great. Well, I also, I want to put in a hot tub, or I want to put in a fire pit. I got to figure that out now too. And it's like, it's very sequential, right? And then after you get all that stuff done, you're like, well, maybe I'll start creating my listing now. Okay, well, I want to wait till the designer's done to get pictures, so I'll wait till they're done. Then I'll order the photographer to come out, which could take 2-3 weeks, even a month, depending on who you're using. If you're using Android, it could be 2 to 3 months out, right? So you got that going on, that whole side of waiting for pictures. You're setting up your listing and you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to launch the listing until the listing's 100% ready, right? Is that the right thing to do? So by the time everything is all said and done, if you've walked through this process, most people, it takes them about 3 to 4 months to launch a property. That's no major renovations or any other things going on, just design, decor, and decorate, getting the property ready, right? With photos and then launching it. Well, the problem is, and a lot of you don't think about this, but that's 3 to 4 months of holding costs. That costs you money. So my goal on this episode today, or this 2-part series, it's probably not the sexiest topic to talk about, but it's actually one of the most impactful ones, is how do you launch your property and cash flow positive in the fastest way possible? How do we become that hare and just blast through that race, that launch process, hit that finish line, and blast on through before the tortoise has even made it halfway? How do we do that? And what are the right ways to do that? So number one, we have to change our mindset. Stop thinking sequentially and think, I just say think concurrently is the best term to think about. Maybe somebody can reach out and tell me a better phrase for that, or a better term for that. But basically, we want to be multitasking, okay? Meaning like as we're talking to the designer, and the designer can give us estimates on these things, right? They're going to order the furniture, or if we're going to order the furniture, look at the dates of arrivals. Don't order things that take 8 weeks to get there, right? Oh, I really love this couch, but 8 weeks, that's not going to work, right? So we need to focus on what's actually going to get us there across the finish line that meets our basic needs of the plan, right? So first off, starting with a plan, but understanding that you're multitasking with talking to the photographer or talking to the designer, saying, okay, you're going to roughly be finishing around this date. So about a week later, let's have the photographer go ahead and get that scheduled. I'm going to start setting up my listing a few weeks before the photographer comes, getting the copy in, starting to get some of the, like the descriptions of the different things, the title, like the basic listing, like how many bedrooms and some of the group rules and all these other things, like getting all that situated. So after the photographer comes, boom, upload the photos, boom, list it on Airbnb. And if you're aggressive like myself, you're listing it before the photographer even takes photos. You're using the listing photos because you want to get bookings right out the gate, and you don't want to just sit there in crickets and then you're waiting to get your first reviews and you're low on the algorithm. So I'm pretty aggressive about it. Most people are like, oh, I want to wait for the professional shots. That's a you decision. That's fine. But the reality is, what we really want to do is we really, 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 really want to wait or really want to do things at the same time, scheduling these things out. If we got contractors and there's always some sort of updates or paint or flooring or whatever that needs to be done, we can do that while we're dealing with other things. We don't have to wait. The second biggest piece is I firmly believe in surrounding myself with experts who are better than me and can get these things done a lot faster. Time is truly money. If you're buying a property that's over $500,000, so you're hoping to gross maybe 80, 90, 100 plus K, 200K even, okay, but rule of thumb, 80K or more, you need to be hiring a lot of this stuff out. I understand it's expensive. It's not cheap hiring someone to go furnish your property for you. But if they can do it in 7 days, whereas it might take you a whole month or 2 months to do it, plus you got to take off vacation time, plus you got to take off any time you would to actually make additional money. I mean, there's an opportunity cost. A lot of people are hard-headed and they're like, I'm going to save money. I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to hire the cheapest designer and she's going to send me the list of items that I need to order, and I'm not going to look at the delivery dates, and I'm not going to do it. Like, you let the people who are the experts run that. Hire those people. I'm telling you right now, if you're buying a property and you're wanting to cash flow 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever amount, and it's going to gross well over 80K, then you need to be hiring out each one of these different elements. And why 80K? It's just, okay, if you're less than that, then you're probably going to be doing a lot of this yourself to save some money, which is totally fine. We all start there. That's where I got started. But the reality is, most of you are buying properties that you're hoping to gross over 80K. Bring in the experts to take over, whether it's the designer, the photographer, the furnisher, the contractor, like whatever it is, even the revenue manager. I think that's a critical piece. Don't wait to find out I need help now, because you've waited too long. You're losing money at that point, right? So having a plan when you go, okay, cool, I found a cool property. Thanks, Kenny, for helping me find a cool property, or I found it on my own using your techniques, whatever it is, great. But now it's about executing the plan of launching that property. And every property is unique because every property is going to have different needs, right? It's going to be, well, this one needs renovations. This one just needs really new furnishings and put in the hot tub. Or we got to fix the current hot tub or replace or whatever. Like, there's all these different elements. But as you're going through your due diligence period, okay, as you're getting close to close, that's when you're creating your plan. You're lining up, you're doing your interviews, you're finding these people to actually sit down with and figure out who your team is going to be, because that's what's going to make you money. Story time. So I don't tell a lot of stories, but I want to share this experience that I personally had that changed my outlook on this entire subject. Like many of you, I like to do stuff myself, okay? And that's exactly what I did with the Watkins Glen property. I found it myself. I dealt with the regulations myself. I negotiated on my behalf. I didn't use a buy-side agent. No, why is there not? Whatever. I did a lot of this stuff myself. I still find myself doing that with a lot of things. I want to do it myself, right? And what I found is, I bought the property completely furnished. Okay, so 100% furnished. This property, for those of you who don't know, it's technically a 7-bedroom. I have it now as 5 bedrooms, but it was a 7-bedroom, 7-bath house is huge. It's like 4,000 square feet. So I got this massive property. I've never owned a 4,000 square foot property to this point, right? The biggest one I have is about 2,700. So it's a pretty big jump for me. And I got it turnkey. I'm using like quotes there, right? Air quotes. I got it turnkey, meaning it's got all the furnishings with it. And I'm like, this is awesome. We're going to roll in here for about 2 weeks. We're going to get this thing up and going. We're going to live in the house. I can work from home. I don't care. Now, keep in mind at this time, I was wrapping up at City. So like I had already given my notice and they knew what I was about to do. So it didn't even matter. But I'm working from home. I still have to work, right? So I'm working from home and I'm going to get this place up and going in 2 weeks. We get there and we look around and like we had some stuff. We were coming furniture and some beds and things we had ordered. It's all piled down in the garage area, my basement, or my neighbor was nice enough to do that. But we go and we get there and we're like, man, some of this stuff looks really used. Like we can't use these furnishings. We're gonna have to replace them. So I'm like, well, crap, 2 weeks. All right, now I'm going to get on Wayfair or, looking at some of these local sites or local like stores. I got to replace this couch. I got to do this bed. I got to do this. Like, crap, I got to get it within a 2 week time period. That really limits what I can get. So, okay, so I got to do that out the gate. So we start ordering tons of crap. All right. And then we have all these boxes. And I'm like, you know what? We got to get this furniture out. We got to get rid of all these crappy decorations. We've got to paint. We've got to do this. We decided to take out a wall. Okay. And keep in mind, I'm bringing my wife here and she's got her own opinions, which end up being what we are going to do. Right. And so we end up changing what my vague plan was to begin with, of go there, set it all up in 2 weeks and get the heck out and start listing it. And I did this during the month of May, which is the beginning of summertime, which is when that market really shoots off. And so I spent 5 weeks. It took me 5 weeks to get that property ready to go, ready to rent. Okay. So 5 weeks getting it ready to rent and doing it myself, living in the property, setting it up. My wife doesn't work. She was setting it up. I was like kind of working at the same time and trying to set it all up. So like at night and like putting our daughter to bed and like all this stuff, like juggling. It was so hectic and stressful. And because of that, two things happened. Number one, my wife hates that place. Hates it. Because of that experience, which really sucks, right? It's supposed to be vacation rental. It's supposed to be a happy, hey, this is a cool place we can go and visit. She hates visiting it because of that. She told me, quote, every time we go there, we have to work, which, sure, there's a lot of things that need to be updated, but we never just go there and enjoy it. And it all started with that first experience of 5 weeks of just purely working on it. Okay. Number two, I lost about 10 grand. Right? Because I didn't hire it out. That was a whole month that I missed. I closed at the end of April or like middle of April. And I had a couple extra weeks, but it was about a 6 week period, 5 to 6 week period. I lived there for 5 weeks. 1 week we just took off. We took a break for a week because we're like, we can't do this very much longer. So I went home and came back the week later. And I lost 10 grand. And the reason why I know that is because the next year when that property was fully in service, that's how much money I made. So I'm like going back at it. It's like, you know what? I could have hired someone to do this for me. I could have hired movers. I could have hired, and it doesn't necessarily have to be, it doesn't have to be someone to furnish the entire place. Maybe someone to just help you, or maybe someone just get the crap out for you, not doing it yourself. Okay. Because your time is valuable. One of the biggest things I should have done with this, we tried to sell some of the furniture that was there. It was decent shape. We just didn't fit with what we were planning on doing. And it just was such a pain in the butt. Have you ever dealt with Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or any of these other sites? Like, hey, is this still available? And you're like, yes. And they never respond back. They're like, come on, man. So the reality is like, that was such a pain. Somebody said, just go on Facebook, post in one of the groups there. Everything in the house for free all the way up till 9, starts at 9 a.m. close off 10 a.m. and everything would be gone. People would take it all out. I was like, that's a great idea. Maybe, you don't do everything in the house. You can put all in the front yard. But the reality was I was by myself trying to move these couches and stuff by myself in the house. So what I found is that I wasted a lot of time. And I became the tortoise in that journey of setting it up. And because of that, I lost a lot of money. And so launching with speed, launching with the right teams in place, the right people in place is key to maximizing your cash flow, especially when you're losing money just by holding the property, the holding cost. Not a lot of people estimate that into their performance. Not a lot of people look and go, great, well, it's going to take me about, 3 to 6 months to launch this property. I just had a client, literally got off a client call. And she's like, maybe I shouldn't tell this story. I don't know. It's a little gray, but I'll tell it anyway for the kicks, right? Everyone is going to want to hear it anyway. So this client's like, look, I'm thinking about adding increasing the septic and like doing a bunch of other things. And the permitting process and also like the construction process too, what I want to do is going to take 6 months. Just for the approvals, just for this and this. And the contractors told me, look, if you wait to get your permits in this area that you're located in, which is a little more rural, it's in the Southeast, there's not a lot of rules there. If you wait and you take a slap on the wrist, meaning like, even if you got caught or you approached the city afterward and said, hey, I did this, and assuming, everything was fine with their construction and it was approved, they give you a $500 fine. And she's like, I really don't want to pay $500, so I'm going to wait. I'm going to take the 6 months. And I said, well, how much, what did they tell you for the three, like, how long would it take you to do this whole construction process if you didn't have to do the permitting? And she said 3 months. And I said, okay, so your whole property is going to be shut down for 6 months and you're paying out with a mortgage and everything, $7,000 a month with insurance, with taxes, utilities, everything. You're not making any money. It's not listed on Airbnb because it's under construction. And it's going to be like that for 6 months because you're waiting on permitting. And they're going to slap you with a $500 fine. And I'm like, okay, is there any fear of like it not being? She's like, no, these guys, they do it all the time. This is kind of like what they do down there. And I'm like, $7,000 a month versus a $500 fine. Are you just worried about the fine, like, or not getting approved? Or she's like, no, it'll get approved. I'm just, I just don't want to have them fine me. And I'm like, you're holding the property every single month for $7K. It makes sense to just take the slap on the wrist and pay the fine and not lose $21,000. That's the 3 months that you're going to be out of service versus just having it ready to go. So, I mean, it's just like that aha moment of going, oh, wow, like my holding costs, those are real, right? And the property's not making any money. This is an investment. Okay. So in order to cash flow positive, we need to understand our holding costs. Now, moral of the story, let me put a fat disclaimer on what I just told you, because like I said, that was a little gray. Obviously, I just said, don't go get permits and all that. Please, this is a very unique situation. If there's any permitting out there and regulations are out, please go do that. Don't just take my word for it on this podcast. I'm going to disclaim the crap out of what I just said, but it makes sense for this girl and what she's trying to do. And that's what I want you guys to understand is speed is key. Having the right people, the right team, the right plan in place is going to help you launch your property and help you cash flow positive when most people aren't. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I am bringing on a special entertaining guest on the next episode, and she specializes in furnishing properties in 7 days or less. So she's going to share her trade secrets with us, and she's going to tell you exactly what you need in place to be able to try to replicate that same thing, even though personally, I don't advise ever doing it yourself ever again. So anyway, I'm Kenny Bedwell. If you've enjoyed this episode, hey, leave me a review, preferably a 5-star one if you can. I would love that. I love reading the feedback in the review. I actually read all the reviews. They're kind of cool to read. So even if you hate the episodes, let me know too. I'd appreciate that too. Just the feedback. I want to make this better for you guys and help you guys to cash flow positive, and that's my goal. I will see you on the next episode.